hard and back with another Road to 2200 Rapid on chess.com game. And I believe this is game 10. I've played 9 games so far. Still no losses up until this point. I should have lost the last game, but I didn't. So we've 7 wins, 2 draws. We've gained a good chunk of rating. I think I was roughly 2090 when I started this series, and we're up to 2148. And it's I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that when you start taking your games more seriously, you start playing better games. You stop losing as many games, and that's kind of been the effect that it's had on my chess. I've been playing much better for the most part. Last game was messy, and this game is messy also. But this one, it doesn't end as poorly as it could have. I will leave you with that, and let's just jump right in. We have pawn to d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7. So after e4, d6, we have a king's Indian defense, and then I like to play this knight g to e2 line. The idea is to play a quick knight g3, and then play bishop to e2, h4, and then maybe, it's just a good setup against the king's Indian. Normally the king's Indian players, they'll play the same moves, so it's like, why not do that as white? Find a setup that works for you and just rock with it. So black castles, quick knight g3, pawn to c5. So I think this is a pretty good way of treating this position. Usually black either goes e5 or c5, striking back in this in the center. Gotta somehow strike back at white's big center at some point, and c5 is a good way to do that. I go d5, and black goes knight bd7. I go bishop to e2, just developing a piece, and black goes b6. So this is kind of an unusual move. Usually black will end up going for e6. I guess I don't see c5 anywhere near as much as I see e5, so maybe it makes a little bit more sense in this c5 line to just try and get the bishop out, or maybe just look to play a6 and b5. B6 seems kind of unusual, and I played h4. So I'm just looking to try and probe him on the king side, maybe play pawn to h5, see what he's going to do about it. And he plays pawn to h5. I go bishop to g5. Now that this pawn has moved to h5, I can sink my bishop into g5, and there's not a threat, or there's not an h6 move to kick my bishop. So the bishop is well placed on g5 at this point. Black chooses to play bishop to a6, applying some pressure to this pawn on c4, but in the game I thought this move was very unusual, and I was even considering moves like queen to a4 to target this bishop, but I like my queen on d1 right now since it applies a lot of pressure to this pawn on h5. I also might want to play queen to d2 at the right time. So queen to d2 was my preferred choice. He's not really threatening the c4 pawn yet. He's not threatening to play b5 either, so I just continue with my development, and he goes rook to b8. So he's like hinting at possibly playing b5, but he can't play b5 yet, so I'm not really sure if this is the correct way that he should be playing. And I kind of panic here. I play a4 to just shut down any and all ideas of playing b5, but I don't think he was really threatening to play b5 in the first place, because I had enough pieces defending this square. But I play a4 anyway. I'm assuming he's going to go knight to e5, so a4 and b3 is also possible. So knight e5, and then I have to play b3. So I don't know about this a4 move. I feel like it's probably a move I'm going to end up having to play at some point if he's going to try and prepare b5, but it might not have been the best or most pressing way to play. I probably should have gone for bishop to h6 and looked to trade off the dark square bishops. That probably would have been a smart idea. But instead, we have this a4 and knight e5, pawn to b3, just solidifying this pawn on c4. And black goes queen to d7. So he's trying to meet a pawn to f4 move with knight to g4 and make sure he has adequate protection over that square. Also, he's just completing development. His rooks are connected now, so he's fully developed. And I go pawn to f4. Knight e to g4 was played, which was kind of his intention of queen d7 to lend some support here. And my plan with f4 is I'm going to go f5. So now that I've gone f5, I've cut off the connection from the queen to the knight, and if he takes back on f5, this would probably not be that desirable because if e takes f5, and I've really got a good grip on the position here, and this is just not a very desirable structure. If let's say he plays bishop to b7 to get his pieces back in the game, I can just castle here and then maybe bring a rook to the center, and this pawn on e7 is suddenly very, very weak, and I have a good position here. But in the game, instead of taking on f5, he plays king to h7. He might be looking to play something like bishop to h6 or something along those lines. And I castle queenside, which is just not a good move because I blunder the fork. I blunder the fork. I have no idea why it calls that a mistake. It is the top engine suggestion, and it calls it a miss. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I started panicking here, and the engine calls this position just completely equal if I allow this. If I play just knight takes h1, it just thinks that I still have a good position here, even though I'm down in exchange, and it thinks it's still pretty equal. I mean, black really can't do anything here. I've got a very good grip on the position. So since it's so close, the rooks wouldn't be super, super useful for the time being, at least. So I really start to panic here, and I play bishop takes f6. So this is kind of a counterintuitive move. Why am I giving up my good dark square bishop and leaving his bishop completely unopposed? I'm not really... it's not the best way to play, but I had some very aggressive intentions in mind. I started to panic about my position, and I play f takes g6. So another bad move, f takes g6. Now his rook is potentially entering the game, and then another questionable move. But this was kind of the whole plan here, is that I'm just going to go and I'm going to blow up his entire king side and hope I get some counterplay. I was down on the clock. I've been spending a lot of time. I spent a lot of time on f takes g6 here. And I probably spent a lot of time on bishop takes f6. Or I only spent 20 seconds on bishop takes f6. But spent a lot of time here. And then I realize I'm down on the clock, so I really need to just go guns a-blazing. He takes on h1, takes my rook. And then I just take on g6. King takes g6. And if we're taking stock of material here, I am down a rook and a knight at this point for 2 pawns, essentially. So basically, it's either I'm going to mate him or get a perpetual, or I'm just going to be down way too much material and lose this game. So here I play h5, and he makes I think this is a serious mistake. If he goes king f7 here, I don't know how I'm going to continue this attack. And I think that's honestly going to be the ball game. I really don't think I'm going to have enough firepower here to continue this. Even something like rook h8, not even to mention queen g4 is pretty good. But he goes to h7, which I think is a serious misstep on his part, because it allows knight f5. Just ignoring this knight, ignoring the knight on h1. Refusing to take back some of my material and just pressing forward. I'm still down a rook and a minor piece, but I'm threatening queen to h6. So if he does nothing here, I have queen h6 check as a resource. So if he wants to stop that, he should go bishop to g7, and I'm not sure why he didn't. I could consider something like h6 here, but I don't think it's going to be good enough. If something like h6 is played, he can play rook takes f5, and I'm going to be losing. If I take back, he takes back, and that's actually wait no. If he takes back on h6, then rook takes h1 wins. But he can just play knight f2 and extract his knight. And if queen takes f2, then I think you can take on h6 here, but you can also just take this free piece, which is definitely the better option. This pawn on h6 kind of provides a shield for this king, so it's probably better not to take it. So in the game, he did not play bishop to g7 or queen to e8, which would have been a good resource. Also, even rook f7 is possible, I think. But in the game, he just plays bishop takes c3. And then after queen h6, I just take a perpetual. And, you know, I can look for more here, but I'm down 9 points of material, and I don't think that there's anything else I can do here. I could try queen g5 king to h8, knight takes e7, but unfortunately this is not going to be good enough. I'm just down way too much material here to try and look for more, and I just think I should just take the perpetual at this point. So the game ended in a draw, but once again, I probably should have been losing. I wish I had moves like rook d3 and rook g3, but this knight covers g3, so I just really can't look for more here, unfortunately. And the game ended in a draw. But this was kind of a weird game. I ended up blundering an exchange here, and then I just absolutely went crazy and just sacrificed everything. And then sometimes that works. I mean, he made a mistake in a position where he was clearly winning. He had plenty of time on his clock too, so I'm not sure why. It seems like this is a common theme in all my games. These guys, they just want to pressure you on the clock, but they don't want to play the most accurate moves. And he was clearly winning, but unfortunately was not able to convert, and the game ended in a draw. So 10 games in, and we are still undefeated, unbeaten. So we've got 7 wins and 3 draws, or 8 wins and 2 draws, something like that, but no losses yet, and the rating is sitting pretty at 2148, and I will see you guys in the next video.